Hello and welcome to the sixth episode of the Flawed Therapist Podcast. Today, my wonderful guest is Susie Hewitt, who is a transactional analyst, and she's a supervisor and trainer and director of the Psychotherapy Institute. And I have attended some of her courses, which were fantastic. So I'm delighted to have Susie on the podcast. I know her as a very, very genuine, very open and authentic person. So I'm hoping for some juicy nuggets of her flaws today. So Susie, over to you. And if you want to say anything, um, anything you're particularly proud of, any achievements, anything you love about being a therapist, we can start with that, and then we'll go into the more tricky bits.
Well, I first want to say thank you so much for inviting me, Masha, because I think you and I have a wonderful relationship, which we've known each other now for maybe a year and a half, maybe coming up for a couple of years. And we have a wonderful, humble, respectful relationship, and I really hope that that comes across in this episode of your wonderful podcast.
It won't stop me from asking tricky questions.
And that's fine. And you're a therapist, so that's what we do.
That's what we do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you want to say a few words, like the good stuff about being a therapist? What
Sure.
do you love
Well,
about it?
yeah. Well, I, like many other people in this profession, come from a previous profession. So there was a career change. And what I love about having spent the past 19 and a half years in training, I still continue to be in training, and 17 years in practice, is that we're doing good in the world. And my previous career in corporate IT sales was good and it paid well. And there were lots of lovely journeys around the world. And I love this job much more. It's a goddamn honest profession. We don't get paid a lot. And very often we're doing it out of the good of our hearts. But I would not swap it for the world. I love this job. And I'm so gifted, so blessed really to have continued my career into training and supervision, so that not only do I get to see the transformations in my clients, I get to see the transformations in my trainees and my supervisees as well. So, yeah, I
I
love it.
relate
I
to
love it. Despite all the mistakes I've made, I still love it.
Oh, we'll go on to mistakes in a little while. Yeah. So it's quite a contrast. IT marketing, did you say?
Or sales, yeah.
Sales to therapy. I do meet quite a lot of IT professionals who actually make really good therapists. I don't know, maybe something about that engineering uh, mindset, but I really do get in terms of teaching how rewarding it is to also help other people learn. That's one of my favorite things about the job as well. So what's maybe not so good about doing what you do? What's hard? What's less glamorous? Because I'm guessing, and I've seen how much your students respect you and love you, and I have that respect and love for you. Um, and people may sometimes put you on a bit of a pedestal. Um, but what I'm interested in is what's not so easy and what's not so glamorous in your job.
Yeah. I think you'll know it's the it's the paperwork, it's the compliance, it's the dotting the I's and crossing the T's, it's renewing your insurance, it's getting your ICO contracts up to date. It's yeah, for me the more tricky bits are the bits that don't involve connection and relationship. They're the boring bits that we have to do in the background that just need to be done.
Admin, yeah, absolutely. Yes, that is, I would say that's the hardest for me as well. And I know that you're brilliant in so many areas of, therapy, supervision, training, and I'm wondering if there's any parts of those jobs aside from admin that are more difficult than others.
Yeah, I mean, I think what goes on for me at the moment, there's a couple of things that I'll be, because I am usually very honest, especially with you. There's a couple of things that I'm challenged by at the moment. The first is um, the vitriol that comes on social media sometimes. And what I struggle with is when the vitriol is directed at me as a psychotherapist by maybe somebody whose training is counselling, and there's something of a kind of defensive attack against. Look at you in your ivory tower with your level 7 training and your UKCP registration, and there's something that really is wounding.
That hurts.
It hurts
Mm,
because you're othering me in that.
mm.
You're assuming that I think less of you because of your training. You're assuming that hierarchy is a thing.
Yeah, so people simultaneously look up to you and resent you for having achieved what you've achieved. And
Or
yeah,
just following a different training path than they have.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So you
find
have
that.
trolls, Susie. I think that's a really good thing. It's a very positive. I wish I'd had some trolls. When I have trolls, I will know I will have made it.
I like how you flipped that, Marsha. That's so smart. Because yeah, there are some comments on social media that are wounding, and they can be personal sometimes.
And some of them are intended as so.
Yeah,
Some of them perhaps people are misunderstanding and not actually getting you. But yes, I just today had a chat with somebody about social media and the potential pitfalls and the harms of it and how we are reliant on it. And I personally, I don't know how to manage my business without social media. So that one day when I work it out, that would be not a bad thing. But yes, there are some risks with putting yourself out there and be open with what you do.
yeah. So I think the challenge is to hold myself okay. And the second challenge I'm facing at the moment, I'm finding more, is the changing world of training in psychotherapy, where there's much more of a consumer experience, a kind of rather than, when I remember when I started training 19 and a half years ago, I felt grateful to get through my interview and be offered a place on the course. I was like, wow. And people were very clear, this is a privileged profession. Not everybody gets into it. It's not just about paying your fees and getting your degree, like some courses. This is a real privileged profession. So I don't know whether you, again, can relate to this, but there's something very consumeristic about psychotherapy trainees nowadays. They're very entitled and demanding.
Interesting. I guess I'm lucky because I don't teach a qualification. I teach short workshops, CPD workshops, and I think at least partly for that reason is that people know what to expect. Kind of, the expectations are, okay, I'm going to go and learn this particular skill or this particular area of creative therapy or whatever it is they learn from me, and they're not expecting this whole thing. So my hat off to you for holding that space time, for full blown kind of psychotherapy training. I don't think I could do that. And I think that takes special energy and stamina and resilience to be able to hold a group over a prolonged period of time. So I can imagine that can be really, really tough. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not that I don't love it. I love watching my little chicks grow up and graduating and watching them become unique in the field, with their own special powers. It's so rewarding as a trainer. So the challenges are balanced with the rewards, but I do see a lot more consumerism nowadays.
So people expect something in exchange for their money,
Mm.
rather than that kind of a more of an energy exchange. Or
Yeah,
yeah.
it's almost like I'm paying you to have a good experience. Maybe we need to readjust you. You're paying to be transformed into a psychotherapist, and that might not be comfortable.
No, I don't think any good psychotherapy training will be entirely comfortable. Yeah, I think if it is entirely comfortable, we've probably failed.
Exactly, we're making a mistake. Yeah.
Absolutely. So if your students are chicks, then you must be mother hen. Is that right? Is that how it feels?
That's sometimes how it feels. Yeah. Trying to get them all in a row going in the same direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, what a challenge.
Yeah.
So is there anything else, in terms of any challenges, any mistakes you may own up to? Obviously, kind of protecting client confidentiality, if you have any examples. Anything maybe you regret from your practice or from your teaching? Or
Yeah. I mean, I've actually got a list of at least 5 things, Masha, that I'm
bring it
prepared to
on.
talk about because there's something about in the preparation, I create my own psychological safety in talking about this. So, what I've done is I've kind of, because I'm pretty obsessive compulsive, I like things structured and organized. So, I've organized them for you developmentally.
Fantastic. Given that I've forgotten my list of questions that I would
That's
normally ask,
okay.
I think we're balancing each other out very nicely here.
Yeah, as usual. So, as we think about my developmental journey as a therapist, I'll start in training. So, the first mistake I remember making, which took me to such a deep place of shame and a sense of failure, was in my clinical competency assessment. So, this happens in year 2 of 4. And you are assessed by doing a kind of triad practice or fishbowl exercise in front of your trainer and your group to show that you can actually achieve the competencies that you need to be signed off to work in placement. And I chosen my course colleague to be my client, as we do. But my very close course colleague, she was a friend and I knew her really well. So when she started opening up about, what something that was big for her, of course, my friend part of me jumped in and reached out and touched her. And I failed my clinical competency.
Oh, that's hard.
That's hard.
Hard. Yeah. Yeah. And well, a touch is it's another issue, but yeah, working with a friend for your assessment, that's pretty tough. Yeah.
And of course, I was rightfully failed. I was rightfully deferred in my clinical competency, but oh my gosh, the shame and the critical thinking and the projection onto my trainer of all the critical objects in my head. I hated my trainer for at least a week, maybe a bit long. I'm not coming back. That's it. I'm done. Um, was a way that I tried to defend myself from actually facing up to one of the toughest lessons I ever learned in training,
Yeah.
because it was on show, it wasn't private. And the best lesson I ever learned, because I can tell you now that rather than me learning don't touch from a PowerPoint or from an ethical code, oh my gosh, I learned my lesson. And I never touched without contract ever again. It really sunk in a way it didn't when the trainer was telling me, or it didn't when I was, getting the ethical code learnt by rote in my head. I learned it.
That pain stays with us, of those excruciating moments. And, many people don't realize, I think it's mostly therapists who are watching us, but, if normal people watch us, they may not realize that we have to do this. We have to demonstrate our skills whilst being observed. I've just been doing it this weekend for one of my specialist areas of Professor Boyd, and I had close supervision, being observed and watched by the group and the supervisor who's there to interrupt me and tell me what I'm doing wrong. It's excruciating. It's so bloody hard. And we remember those moments.
We do, and it's so different from some other mistakes that you've talked about in previous episodes, and other mistakes that we'll talk about, that I'll share with you about mistakes I make with clients. I mean, that was really public mistake.
Wow, big lesson.
Yeah, a big lesson and a great lesson. And I couldn't have taken in that learning in the same way if I hadn't have made that mistake.
No, contracting.
Contracting and contracting for touch.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. Let's go down your list. Item.
Okay. The second, so we'll move now developmentally to when I started in my practice. Both, in my first couple of years of practice. And one of the things that I learned as a transactional analyst in my training was what Eric Byrne, the founder of transactional analysis, invited us to do as therapists, which is to think Martian. So think Martian. Imagine you're an alien that's just come down from Mars and you don't understand the language, but you're trying to get a feel or a sense for what's going on. So stop listening to the words and pay attention to your intuition and your sense of what's going on.
Great.
Which is great. And he, like many other originators of psychotherapeutic modalities, was particularly interested in psychic ability. What is it about psychotherapists that we know stuff before the clients told us?
It's magic.
It's magic.
Or the co-regulation or whatever.
Yeah.
Who cares what it is? It happens.
And it happens. But one of the biggest mistakes I started to make and realised I was making in the first couple of years of my practice was this reading clients like a book. I have this ability, but I think we've talked about it before, where I'll meet a client and I know exactly their pecking order in the family system. I'll say to them, "You're an only child," and they'll go, "I didn't say that." I'll say to them, "Obviously, being the baby of your family." Susie, there's just this kind of spooky intuition that we have where we know the client.
And may I ask, when you were doing it, did you feel a little bit pleased with yourself?
Exactly. I know stuff that you have not told me. What a great psychotherapist I am.
The power of looking into somebody's soul.
Yeah. I mean, check me out. I'm using my thinking Martian. And of course, the client was not ready for me to see that. And that was a big developmental lesson to learn. So I learned that the invitation from Byrne to think Martian versus the need to let the client go at their own pace of disclosure, it was so important.
To great learning. I do find if we are particularly good at something, there's such a temptation to just inflict it on the client. It will be good for them.
Yes.
It often isn't. It often isn't. What a lovely lesson to learn. And how did you realize that? Because it must feel good, the power, the knowledge, the status of being able to do this psychic reading. It must have been exciting, pleasurable, confidence boosting. How did you realize that that wasn't quite the thing to do?
I realised because I started to see shame in my client, which of course, which strangely enough, when we think in psychoanalytic, psychodynamic terms, kind of metamorphosizes into our shame. So I realised shamefully that I'd analysed too much. And I had done harm in that.
That really touches me, Susie, that you use those words. I think it's really hard to say that or to think that I have caused harm to clients.
Yeah.
I know that I have used those words. I kind of use them cautiously, usually when I'm teaching and can try to make a point about the importance of being cautious and tentative and mindful. I will say I know I have caused harm, though now the world will know about it. And I think it's so important to be able to say that, because if somebody says, I have never caused harm to a client, I don't think it can possibly be true. Just by the virtue of being human, we must make mistakes at times. We must misjudge. We must be misattuned at least some of the time. And some of the time, it is likely to cause harm. We may not necessarily know about it. So even if we haven't clocked it, I don't think it's possible to say ever that I've never caused harm. So I really appreciate that you're able to say those words.
Yeah. And you know, we'll talk more about how I can say those words because of all the mistakes that I've made that I've learned from. And there's been a lot of people that write about this and say the rupture repair cycle in therapy is such that you need to make mistakes in order to work through to the kind of needed relationship and real relationship that we head for in the Martha Stark's mode of psychotherapeutic action. We will start in the repeated relationship and we will make all the mistakes that the original bad objects made. It's inevitable. And this is so important for people in this profession to normalize and go, yeah, we're all going to make mistakes and it's going to be fantastic because then we get to the real work.
Yeah, and the rupture repair cycle. When I started my journey in therapy, I largely trained in short-term therapy models, that very, very brief therapy, kind of a solution, very solution-focused, goal-oriented, and the relationship wasn't even a thing, it was just something that happened alongside Obviously, it was important to have a good relationship, good rapport with the client, but it wasn't the primary and most important part of the work. And rupture and repair wasn't in the lexicon. It wasn't a thing. And only in recent years, I'm realizing the importance of that practice. Ruptures will happen, and we repair. And this is practice for life.
Yes. And there's something about, as I look back to my failed clinical competency, as a trainer now myself, as a director of a 4-year training program, what I've learned to do differently from that original mistake is tell my trainees, please make a mistake. Please make at least 2 in your first 50 hours. I mean, don't let me down. It's really important you do, because then we can learn from that. So that if I had had that permission to make a mistake before I'd done my clinical competencies, I wonder whether I would have gone into such deep shame. And that doesn't negate the fact that it was a really worthwhile lesson that I learned.
What a great teaching trick. I'll be borrowing that. I will
You don't have to borrow it. Please have it with my blessing.
instruct my students to screw up.
Yeah, permission to screw up. In fact, it's a necessity.
Absolutely. Great stuff. So I can't wait for the next point. Number 3.
Right. Number 3 is, now this is to do with, you and I have a kind of systemic lens in our work. This is how we were drawn together. It's that even when we're working with an individual, we're aware of the system around the client, their family, original family system, the groups that they're in. And the biggest mistake I made sort of as I started working systemically with families in the room, and also with individual clients, but paying attention to their family system, was how I would align with the client's hurt from the parent, from their childhood. And I'd align with them. Oh, that's a toxic parent there. Oh, maybe your parents are a bit narcissistic. Oh, yeah, that was abusive for them to do that to you. Oh my gosh, what a mistake. What a mistake that was.
I'm still in that place. I sometimes feel murderous on behalf of clients. I think, evil has been done to you. And on some level, it is true. And I'm still learning. I think I'm a babe. I think I'm one of your chicks in terms of systemic thinking. I've still got a long way to go to grow up in terms of systemic thinking. So yes. So thank you for mentioning that. I need reminding of that. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's a podcast, so we're going to collaborate. You're not interrupting at all. And I'm thinking that, my mistake, I hope, is a gift to other therapists that hear this. Please don't align too completely with making the parent bad. Because in today's cancel culture, where, we see Prince Harry or Flynn Beckham, we see that adult children are cancelling their parents. Therapists have a duty of care not to make the mistake of reinforcing that estrangement or causing the rupture or pushing the client to that place. Why? Because there's such deep injury in the client. We may believe that it's good to have a clear boundary and maybe a clear break in estrangement, but making the parent bad makes a part of the client's interest psychic self bad. And oh my gosh, if I could go back like 17 years and all the clients that I saw that said, oh yeah, you need to cut off from your parent and you need to estrange from them. I wish I could. That was such a big mistake.
I hear that, Susie, and there's a part of me really fighting against that. But there will be exceptions where parents are dangerous, and sometimes there is a cause for estrangement, and maybe there isn't in the systemic view, and there's a part of me really resisting it. So I'm willing to learn more about it.
Well, I think you and I probably could agree that it needs to be the client's choice. And when I notice I'm ahead of the client going, oh, I hate this parent, and you need to get rid of them. And I notice the client going, what? I didn't say that. What are you saying? I didn't come up with that idea. Then I'm causing harm.
Yeah, I get it. No, fair enough. Fair enough. No, the client's decision, and I would support the client, but I would not necessarily encourage the client. Hopefully,
No.
manipulate the client into doing what I think is the best thing for them. Yeah. Sometimes I don't know about you. Sometimes I think I know best.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't, do we? We don't know best.
Well, we are not the clients, so it's not possible for us to have their experience. We be alongside them for with their experience. Yeah.
Have we got time for one more?
Yeah, absolutely. I think have you not got two more on
Oh
your
yeah, I have. I've got plenty of mistakes.
go for it? I am running out of battery, but I think there is enough for another point or two. Definitely. I'll have everything you give me.
Okay.
This is very precious.
So I want to talk about complaints now. Ethical complaints. So I have had two in my career, which my supervisor tells me is about average because we should get about one complaint every 10 years, she told me. And I was literally in my 10th year of practice when I got my first complaint.
Oh, that must be painful.
Yeah.
I've got away with it so far, but not looking forward to when it does happen, perhaps.
No. And the horror of receiving an email from my membership body saying somebody's complained about you. Here's the file. I'll send you a separate email with the password. That's on. I was thinking, that's it. I'm going to be struck off. I'm not going to be able to practice anymore. And
Scary
the
stuff.
terror,
Scary.
yeah. So the mistake that I made was, first of all, not talking to anybody apart from my supervisor about the fact that I'd received a complaint. But because I was ashamed.
Oh,
And I didn't want people to know because I didn't want people to think badly of me.
that's a big secret to keep, a burden.
Yeah.
And the investigation can drag on for months and months and months. Did it take a long time?
Yeah. I mean, I've had, as I say, I've had two complaints and each of them have lasted nearly a year.
Oh, torturous.
Now, whether the complaint is upheld or not is a different matter from the learning that I sought to gain from it.
So what would you do differently now if there was, hopefully not,
Yeah.
but if there was another complaint?
I think I would talk to people and say, I'm going through a complaint at the moment and it's really awful. And I want to talk about it because I want to learn. And it might be that you have some insight into this, but instead of hiding it away, what I'd do differently is I would talk about it.
Yeah.
And also kind of, I mean, I will self-disclose a little bit at this point. Marsha, because it might be helpful. So I grew up with a very punitive set of parents, that were physically punitive for any mistakes or errors that I made. So when I make mistakes, it's not just shame that I'm facing.
Yeah.
It's actual body memory of physical um, retribution for the mistakes. So I have what we call in TA a be perfect driver or counter injunction, which won't surprise you. I'm very structured and things need to be done well. So receiving a complaint was hugely evocative for me of when I'd made a mistake as a child and was punished physically as well as shamed publicly. So there is something about when I've made a mistake, the sky's going to fall in.
Yeah. It's catastrophic.
It's catastrophic. So I resist owning the fact that I've made a mistake. So I lose that what Safran and Moran call in psychoanalytic writing the non-defensive use of self. I lose it
It's not
because
nice given the history, and yeah, absolutely. We need to be right to be safe.
yeah, and of course I have learned in 17 and a half years of personal therapy, because that's a mistake I've not made, is learning that I need to have that regular space for myself, not just the supervision space, but the therapy space, to go and take that. I've had a complaint and I feel like I'm going to be physically reprimanded.
And that's really good to hear in terms of, again, normal people may not know that therapists need therapy, not just through our training when it's required, but throughout life as and when it's needed. We do have support, we do have therapy aside from the supervision, because life affects us, horrible things happening like complaints or whatever events impacts us just as it does other people. So thank you for that, Susie.
Yeah, and part of what has come out of the complaints and taking it to personal therapy is an accounting and an understanding of another aspect of my script, which is a theme of mistakes in my 17-year journey, which is, as an adoptee, I was a secret myself. And so when confidentiality matters come into play, this is another evocative topic for me. So, in my time, and there have been breaches of confidentiality, because I think we all can make mistakes over the years and breach confidentiality, usually inadvertently and not maliciously. And yet, what I learned to understand in confidentiality being a theme of my mistakes in the first few years of my practice was that, of course, my adoptee self is allergic to secrecy.
That makes so much sense, Susan. How you're linking your professional mistakes to your real life experience, which I think is such a useful reflection. Um, we've got just maybe a couple more minutes. Any other juicy bits you would like to share with us?
I think the final one is discussing exams that we've been involved in, or ethical complaints we've been involved with, which kind of
On the other side, I've been
yeah,
on an ethics committee of one of my associations. Oh, the headache of it.
And of course, you want to process it. You need to go process it.
Absolutely.
But my mistakes sometimes have been processing it outside of the confidential spaces, processing it with colleagues who may know the practitioner, and that I'm aware is a big mistake. My need to process has got in the way of me holding that exam or complaint space safe and confidential.
And when we're emotionally impacted, obviously, kind of our cognitive thinking brain is not quite in gear as much as we need to have it. So we go blah. Sometimes inappropriately. I can relate to that. Yeah. Nowadays, I try to talk to my dog first before I go to a person, as sometimes the impulse, oh, I had a crap day, this happened.
You're not going to believe this. You're not going to believe what I went through.
Yeah, wow, yeah. No, I get that. Oh, it just feels so human to talk to you, Susie, and really, I really appreciate your openness and your experience on all the different levels of of the psychotherapy profession. I hope this is really helpful for people who are starting um, in the profession, as well as more experienced people, so that they can see a real human being who has done incredibly well and is very well regarded, and has screwed up a few times, once or twice. And
Sometimes I hope, because I've learned more from the mistakes that I've made than I did do from the training.
I get it. Yeah. So, any final words you want to add before we complete this chat?
The only final words I have, Masha, I thank you so much for doing this podcast. It's so important we normalise that each therapist is flawed, and that's part of our learning journey.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. Thank you to everyone who is listening and watching on YouTube. Please like and comment on this video if you enjoyed it, if you didn't enjoy it, and share with others who you think might benefit. Really appreciate you listening.